Okay. It is top of the hour for me. I'm on the Pacific Northwest coast, so it's 12. But welcome to the second virtual research meeting. For those of us who have been part of Hospice Palliative Nursing Association, this was usually occurred at a very early morning hour at the annual assembly. So this is instead of that in-person meeting. So I thank you all for being here today. Again, as a reminder, please mute yourself so we don't have interference. Open up your chat box because we want to use it today to get some feedback from you guys at different times throughout the meeting. In addition, if you have technical difficulties, please just take your video off, and that might help with some bandwidth issues. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. As it says here, I am the Hospice and Palliative Nursing Director of Research. So thank you for being here. My contact, the most important thing on this is my contact. So always feel free to reach out to me and we can facilitate if there are things that you, as a Hospice and Palliative Nursing member out there, wants to see that HPNA research is doing what, fill in the blank. So take away my email. And then the only thing is I just want to introduce some of the leadership team. Some of you may know Virginia or Ginger, as we know her, Marshall, as the CEO of all three organizations, right? HPNA, HPCC, and then HPNF. So HPNF is the foundation, HPCC is the credentialing center. And then the research sits within the education team. So these are my colleagues on that education team, and their emails are there as well. So Kate, Candy, and Maria. And without further ado, because we have a special guest today, Dr. Karen Kale is joining us, even though she's not in her office. So we appreciate her being here with us as one of the NINR program officers. So Karen, at this point, feel free to unmute and take it away, and I'll advance your slide.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. On behalf of Lynn and myself, I'm happy to be here today. We wanted to let you know about our NINR's mission and strategic plan, which have been undergoing change since September of 2020 when Dr. Shannon Zenk came in as the director. So the NINR mission is leading nursing science to solve pressing health challenges and inform practice and policy, optimizing health and advancing health equity into the future. Ultimately, the strategic plan that we're going to talk about is meant to communicate how NINR will achieve this mission through support of research and training. Next, please. So the mission includes, the strategic plan includes guiding principles and research lenses. And these guiding principles describe important qualities that we believe that all NINR supported work should have as we move forward. In considering awards for funding, the extent to which the studies reflect these principles will be a factor in decisions. So we're looking for research that's innovative, that applies rigorous research methods, that has the potential for significant impact on health or wellness beyond the initial study population, that advances equity, diversity, and inclusion, that addresses today's challenges and helps us be better prepared for the future, and provides solutions to optimize health across clinical, community, and policy settings. Next, please. Next, please. Thank you. So one of the things you will notice is that I haven't talked about any particular topics beyond saying that we want nursing to look at pressing health challenges. One of the things that's very different about the strategic plan is it is not laying out particular topics or areas of research that investigators need to address. Instead, it's presenting some research lenses which are basically a perspective by which you can examine an identified health challenge. As we all know, the field of nursing science is comprised of many, many different perspectives on what topics nursing science should address and how we should do so. In developing this strategic plan, NINR wants you as an investigator to make the case for why your topic is a pressing health challenge. And part of what we want you to do is to leverage the strengths of these various lenses, which we believe will help us position the field to evolve, innovate, and think bigger than we have in the past, which will give us even more impact. I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to talk about each one of these lenses just a little bit so you understand it a bit more. In terms of health equity, we're looking at studies that are aimed at producing evidence that's needed to reduce and ultimately eliminate the systemic and structural inequities that place some populations at disadvantage in attaining their full health potential. So an example of this in palliative care might be a study that addresses equity and access to palliative care services. The social determinants of health is really looking at research that examines the conditions in which people are born, live, work, play, age, and die, and identifying effective approaches to address social risk factors, social needs, and to capitalize on positive factors like strengths or assets to improve health outcomes. This fits very well with both nursing's holistic focus and the palliative care principles of examining the whole person in the context of where they live and how they live. In terms of population and community health, this is really studies that address critical health challenges at a macro level, focusing on interventions that affect groups of people with shared characteristics or who live in a particular area. This is very consistent with NINR's previous interest in palliative care in home and community settings. This, however, instead of just looking at individual outcomes, is also interested in examining population or community outcomes. Prevention and health promotion is projects that study prevention of disease and promotion of health throughout the continuum of prevention, which includes everything from primordial prevention that targets underlying risk factors that increase risk of illness, to tertiary prevention that aims to reduce disease severity, symptoms, and progression, with a particular emphasis on eliminating health disparities. Now, there are a few ways that our field fits in this. Certainly, projects focused on improving the health of caregivers are one example of prevention, but studies that address symptoms and quality of life to maximize someone's quality of life may also fit under tertiary prevention. And finally, systems and models of care is research that addresses clinical, organizational, and policy challenges through development, dissemination, and implementation of new systems and models of care, including those that bridge clinical and community care with social factors and needs. Some of the research in the systems and models of care section may also be more descriptive and looking at the issues that currently exist in our systems and models of care that require some change. And I'm going to put one of our people who's on the call on the spot here. One really good example of this is some of the research that Lisa Lindley is doing now, really examining how models of care can be different. So there are a lot of ways that end-of-life and palliative care research can fit within these research lenses. Next, please. One of the things that will be happening is NINR will be supporting research and training in areas of science that are consistent with these guiding principles, that apply the perspective of at least one of these 5 research lenses. And NINR will be continuously assessing urgent or emergent health challenges, like the pandemic that we've lived with for the last few years, to identify strategic imperatives that may have special funding opportunities and to solicit new research in response to those. So I'm happy to share this with you, and I will end with what you are all used to hearing from both Lynn and I. Obviously, this is quite a bit different from what we've had for other strategic plans. So if you have any questions about how your proposed project or your idea might fit with NINR's research lenses and guiding principles, please contact either Lynn or I. We're more than happy to talk to you. Don't feel like you have to be ready to submit. We're happy to talk to you about your ideas earlier in the process as well. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Karen. We really appreciate you being here, even though you're not in your office today to bring us this information. And again, Lynn Adams, Karen Kell, and NINR program officers, do please reach out to them as you think about your research and how it would align with the new guiding principles and the research lenses. Thanks, Karen. I know you've got to run.
Thank you.
So with that, again, I do encourage everyone to reach out. She actually was not even in the office today and needed to take the day away for other personal reasons. So we're really appreciative that she's here. So do reach out to her or reach out to me and we can have conversations about that. Without further ado, I do want to bring around, just as another celebration, some of these persons are actually on their spring break or on their Easter vacation already, so they're not with us. But just again, saying a shout out to Dr. Boyden, who was awarded the HPNA New Investigator Award this year. And important on this is the applications are now open for this award and they are due May 1st. 2020, you can find the application on the HPNA website. And another shout out to Dr. Song, who won the Distinguished Nursing Researcher Award and was, again, we celebrated during the annual assembly this year, but same thing, applications, most important for us on the call, are open and are due May 1st, 2022. And without further ado, I just want to spend some moment. There's several of my research committee members on this call today, and the work that we do within Hospice and Palliative Nursing Association would not be possible without these next images of persons that you're meeting. So Dr. Isaacson, Dr. Sullivan, and Dr. Boyden are three of the research committee members, in addition to Dr. Wright and Dr. Tay. So that is our formal research committee members, but I also have some extra members that are a part of that process, and that is our emerging SIG scholars, which is the special interest group for like the emerging SIG. And the chairs of that group are listed here, and they are joining us today as guests to lead the next section of this meeting. So open up your chat because they're going to have some questions and different things that they want to provide, that we want you to provide to us, so we can take those forward. Okay, unmute whoever is speaking for the emerging SIG.
Thank you, Heather. I'm going to start. Hi, I'm Kate Doyen. I'm one of the co-chairs along with Erica Freckman and Sharon Bigger. So just a little bit about our Emerging Scholars SIG, in case you are unfamiliar or wanting to join us. We represent the community of hospice and palliative care nurses and interested in research and other scholarly pursuits. Our membership includes doctoral students, postdocs, and early career faculty appointments. The goal of our SIG is to foster a community of early career and emerging scholars in hospice and palliative nursing through education, mentoring, scholarship, and connection. And now I'm going to monitor the chat, and I'm going to hand the mic over to my colleague, Dr. Bigger.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great. So we just have two queries, essentially, that we'd love to hear from you, even if you're not an emerging scholar. Maybe you could think back to when you were an emerging scholar, or perhaps you currently mentor an emerging scholar. So the first question is, how could early career hospice and palliative nurse researchers be supported in our field? And the second is, what topic would you like to see the Emerging Scholars SIG feature with guest speakers. So how can we be best supported, and what topics would you like to see with guest speakers? We'll give you a few minutes to post in the chat.
Just take a moment and think about those two questions, and I'm watching the chat. Drop in there. We'll be saving these for future use.
The question, are the emerging scholars attending the retreat? I think Lisa Lindley asked that. Which retreat? The Foley retreat?
We'll be talking about that. It's on a slide deck coming up. Thanks, Lisa, for the question.
Oh my gosh, so I can't even keep track. There's so many
I
questions.
know, it's wonderful to see so many ideas coming in. Thank you all so much. Keep them coming.
One of the, while I have this audience here, if you know of grant opportunities, or if you know of a postdoc opportunity in your institution, if you would like us to disseminate it or share it with our membership for potential applications, we'd be happy to do that. If you know of any, specifically, for hospice, palliative care, nursing, we do have a small handful of chaplains as well. So if you want to send those to us, and we can send it to our membership, if you want their applications, we really would welcome that. Also, grant opportunities. We only know what we know. Sometimes there are some smaller grants that we would love to share with our members, and we just don't know about them. So if you would like us to spread the word, we'd be happy to do that.
Lisa's asking, who should we send postdoc openings to?
If you want us to send it to for potential applications to our membership, send it to any of the 3 co-chairs. So it's me, Kate Doyen, Sharon Bigger, or Erica Freckman. And if you'd like, I can just put
I'll go back.
Oh, perfect.
There's the emails. Take note of the emails.
And you can find all 3 of us on Twitter, and you can direct message me on Twitter. I'm a very big user of Twitter. Actually, that's how I found out about where my postdoc was. So it's useful in a lot of different ways. I'm loving all of these questions. I think we are going to, Heather is going to send me a list of this, send us a list of all of this, and we are going to come up with perhaps some webinars and other ways of supporting all of these good suggestions. Mentoring opportunities. I love this. I think we have to think a little, this is from Deborah, mentoring opportunities to discuss how to get started, encouragement and support. I love that. I wonder if that could be one of our webinars, or I really wanted to bring in someone who gave a lecture that I saw, a webinar on how to write a lot. I found that was really helpful.
Yeah, could you guys just kind of speak to about like your structure over an annual year, or maybe for this last year, like different things that you guys did try to do and want to continue doing?
So we surveyed the membership to find out what they wanted. Like, so we did, we had Billy Rosa come and talk about mentoring. Rachel Wells came to and talked to us about how writing productivity. We had Joan Carpenter, she came and she talked to our membership about how to write a bio sketch. And so those are things that our membership asks for. Sometimes I find, and I'm happy for this thread, that's so many, this is really long, I'm loving this, because sometimes as a early career researcher, you don't know what you don't know. So this list is going to help us support our members in, illuminating essentially what they don't know. And there are a lot of things that we can do without, having a webinar about it. So, for example, disseminating to our membership postdoc openings, or other even assistant professorship openings, things like that. But that's generally, we have a meeting approximately every 6 weeks, I would say. And we try to make the topic based on something that our membership has said that they find beneficial.
And the other thing that these three individuals do is they join monthly research committee meetings. So then it is an avenue of communication from those research committee meetings back to those persons who are attending the emerging SIG meetings. So, and again, the SIG is special interest group. So it's a special interest that I want to be involved in. So, you know, you sign up, you attend, and it's trying to have that ways of communication out to the membership of all the great things that are happening, but then also today trying to capture what other great things do we need to be doing that we might have not thought about.
We also did a webinar on like the job search interview hiring process, because in my PhD program, we didn't talk about how, you know, a job talk. I mean, we did talk about a job talk, but specific to hospice and palliative care, or how to negotiate for protected time, or how to negotiate to get your startup package and things like that. So we also talked about that. I mean, to me, one of the reasons I love the SIG so much is because we're very communicative. So, and we share. So this is what I'm feeling insecure about. And then someone else in a meeting can say, oh, well, this is how I did that. And it's, you know, nurses support nurses. And I think that it's a great place for us to really help build our programs of research and be successful nurse scientists in hospice and palliative care.
And I'll just bring in, thank you, Ginger, for chipping in the chat about the mentor program. I'm going to have a little link to it later in the slide deck. We'll have the website, but there's the link. And this is a place, if you're building your profile of who you are, that then you can find other mentors, people who have signed up to be mentors. And if you sign up and you can say, you know, mentees around topics of interest that kind of align. So thanks for that. Anything else from the emerging SIG group?
And one last comment, Cindy Kramer, a class for general membership and how bedside nurses can get involved in research. You know, the reason I love that so much is because as a nurse researcher who hasn't really done a lot with patient care, I find it invaluable when I work with practicing clinicians. And so there's a wonderful way, a wonderful opportunity for those collaborations. If the emerging SIG were to have a webinar that we were to broadcast more generally to the membership about how bedside nurses can get involved in research, I think that would be fantastic. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome. Thanks to all of you. So Sharon Bigger, Kate Doyen, and Erica Freckman. Keep bringing ideas. And now we'll kind of transition to the next segment, which is going to be also chat innovated, where we want to introduce the research special interest group chair, Chris Fortenay. So again, note the email that's there you've been the chair now since a year. And you and I have been trying to brainstorm just our two brains of like, how can we get more engagement with the research special interest group that's out there. So that's really what the purpose of this today's is.
Correct. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Fortenay. I am the chair of the Research SIG, and I think, you know, largely the Research SIG has not been very active over the last couple of years, and there are several people who are interested in changing that. I think the emerging SIG has done an amazing job of providing some structure and some beginning steps for new researchers. And so, you know, I think we have a real opportunity to kind of build off of what they have done to support those who are beyond the 5 years out and looking for some other types of support. And so I think that was primarily what I wanted to talk about today, was how the research SIG could what is the primary reason for people joining the SIG? What gaps can we fill for you? And what are some things that you would like for us to begin to do this year that might help us to grow the SIG and become more of an active and functioning SIG that could provide benefit for our members?
So feel free to jump in the chat and add ideas as I look at the previous ideas posted by those of you out there within the emerging SIG. There's definitely some crossover and overlap. And so trying to think about, again, we don't want to be duplicative of the work that maybe the emerging SIG is doing, but are there other aspects that we could do in the research SIG? And then there's just this range of level of what people need, wherever they are in that process of what we call research, quality improvement, program evaluation, a bedside nurse wanting to engage in research. So kind of that bigger range that we want to see, what are the distinct differences in those groups and what can each of those groups do collaboratively or perhaps separately because of the career trajectories of people that are, engaged in those groups. So I see Natalie saying, hoping to partner with fellow palliative care researchers and work with those in my specific area of science.
And Mary has said, whoop, lost it.
Here they come.
Everyone's typing in. So Mary, we said developing collaborations and to learn more about what others are doing. And I think that is a huge piece of this is, to learn what other people are doing and how we can start to collaborate, because mentorship is hard to find in this area, especially for certain populations of patients.
Thanks, Jessica, for numbering. You have three points there. Focus group with researchers of similar interest. And these are all kinds of things that Chris and I have had several meetings over this last year of like, what is it? And so now we can go back to our ideas and see how these cross list from your ideas to prioritize which initiatives we can do, because of course we can't do all of them, but how can we prioritize some initiatives?
And I like Natalie's idea about having meetings to talk about palliative care research projects and the challenges that we're having, because there are several challenges. And I think oftentimes those cross populations, and I think we all could help each other out with that quite a bit.
So like a peer-to-peer support group.
Yeah.
Connie's saying collaboration. So I see collaboration on multiple levels in the word being used quite a bit. Connection, collaboration, connection. Well, I like the EBP, thinking about topics to bring back to your institution. It looks like Jamie's talking about EBP Council of the how to integrate what practice, evidence-based practice is out there and have it at the, linking that to research. And Eileen says, learning how to involve and others in research and mentorship. And Mary again, yeah, gaps of making those connections around specific institutions, but more so around us, right? In the palliative care world of like, are we working in the same thing? And how could we have like a multi-site study, for example? Kim's asking, when does the research committee meet? So Kim, two things. We have a dedicated research committee members since I started in the director of research role back in 2020, just before our old world kind of went upside down. So we have that group. That group is made of the persons you saw on the slide deck earlier, in addition to Chris as the research SIG chair and the emerging SIG chairs. We meet monthly, and that's kind of a closed meeting where we do the business. So we do the HPNA Research Award reviews. We do, we provide ways to think about, like they helped me put together this slide deck. Obviously, we're here together. Other reviews we do, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So that's a dedicated. We have not had research SIG meetings on a consistent basis. And since Chris has come on, there was a time in the past that research SIG was joined with AHPM's research SIG when we were doing in-person conferences. And so at the conference was a time where those persons would get in the same individual room, but we aren't having a research meeting. But I think if that's something that, you know, the membership wants, then I think we could think about how we might incorporate that. Of course, everyone's schedules are wildly busy. And so is it a dedicated meeting? I think like the emerging SIG, they say they do like 6 meetings a year versus monthly types of meetings. I hope that helps answer your question.
Yeah, and I think kind of building off of that, and Lisa Lindley brings up this point, which there are several other research groups in palliative care, like through the Palliative Care Research Collaborative and the Pediatric Palliative Care SIG that Pam Hines runs. And Heather, you and I have talked about this too before, about that we almost sort of need a niche, something that people can get here that they're not getting from other places. And so, yeah, that's sort of what could we provide that folks can't get in another spot? And because we are all busy.
We all know our calendars are very full with meetings. So making it a very purposeful meeting that is productive for the need that you're coming to the meeting. I think that's probably why Chris put the question on there. What was your primary reason for joining the research SIG? What did you want to get out of that? Because we do want it to be purposeful and not just another meeting on our already very busy schedules. Great. Yeah. So Seiko says, I've attended meetings in the past, but not so productive unless there are goals. So I think from today, what we'll be working on is pulling this chat down, theming that from a qualitative research standpoint, and putting those thoughts and topics in, you know, same kind of categories or patterns, and then decide from a prioritization standpoint, which ones we want to start ticking off the box to help you guys out there that are, you know, working in research or wanting to get more involved in research.
I think Chris has put in to present research proposals and then generate discussion around that and garner support. That could be, I think, a useful idea as well.
And career discussion about groups. And again, it's that joining of the emerging SIG, because they've been doing things in their space, and then the research SIG, and making sure that one, communication out to the membership is there so people can attend, which we're working on. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, of how you can get some of that communication, but not being duplicative. Other things, now that the emerging SIG has kind of seen what was typed for these, we just want to continue to, you know, collaborate amongst the special interest groups to make sure we are providing a range of research supports, whatever those are, for the membership. For you guys that came today on the call today. Focus on research for communication and dissemination at the annual assembly. Yeah, thanks, Lisa.
Well, I thank all of you guys so much. These are some really good suggestions that we can start to work toward.
Great. Anything else? If not, we'll kind of continue on. And this part is really me just talking about some of those ways that you can engage and get connected. Anything else, Chris?
No, not right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here today and helping lead the brainstorm. So a couple of things that I just want to bring to everyone's attention is, as you know, the new HPNA research agenda is coming out. And I just want to, again, think about the legacy of the 4 prior research agendas, as you can see represented kind of here on this slide. Where can you find information when this research agenda comes out? Always, always, always pay attention to that happenings newsletter that comes out on Fridays, because that is a way for us to communicate. Just a little history of where we're at in the process currently. If you had attended the June 2020 virtual research meeting, at that time we used the chat to kind of gather these topics. We asked you, the persons that were at that meeting, and we had a robust chat. From that time, then the research committee, myself, created 10 broad topics. Those then broad topics in August 2020 was sent out to all HPNA members in a survey for them to rank order the priority of those 10 topics. After that, then it went to the HPNA board and those topics were approved. So we've been busy, or I should say the whole group of us have been busy writing to those priority topics. And my research committee and the emerging SIG chairs have been a part of the process of kind of leading those writing groups around the topics. So I just want to take a moment to personally thank everybody that may be on this call that's a part of those writing groups and or part of the research committee or the emerging SIG and research SIG group. This project would not be possible without all of the work that you've done. So right now we're in final copy editing draft. It's been out to the copy editor, and now the writing groups have those sections back. We are working on mapping those also, the recommendations to the National Consensus Guidelines for Quality Palliative Care, which will be coming out. So again, pay attention, happenings newsletter, fall 2022 is when we're targeting, obviously, for this to come out for the new 2023-2026 HPNA research agenda. It's been about a 2.5-year process. So thanks to all of you out there that may have been a part of this process. Further, other ways to think about volunteering opportunities, there's a whole range. It's not just necessarily related to HPNA research, but of course, being on the board of directors. Oops, why is that changing? Multiple committee opportunities, being on award selection committees, being subject matter experts, or being abstract reviewers. And I think specifically, from a research standpoint, obviously you've heard about the research committee. You saw the pictures of that. We will be having a call that'll come next fall. Some of my research committee members have been on the committee for quite some time, and their terms will be expiring, and we'll be having a call for new persons to come onto that research committee. As well as I think the research SIG chair position needs to have succession planning, which we've talked with Chris and I have talked about, as well as the emerging SIG to have that succession planning. So those are places to kind of plug in. In addition to, I'm trying to build an abstract reviewer database for a lot of different things that we do for reviews. Specifically going on right now is the Sigma Theta Tau HPNF end of life nursing care grant. So HPNA doesn't facilitate that grant, STTI does, but I do provide names of interested individuals who would like to review for that grant. So again, that's one way. Of course, there's always reviewers for the abstracts for the multitude of different conferences that we have within our organization. So there are calls for those as well. Further, this is what Lisa, I think, was talking about earlier in the process. The most important thing is applications for this are due April 30th. This is a research scholars program that has been around for several years, supported by the annual Kathleen Foley, and it's called the annual Kathleen Foley Symposium or Palliative Care Retreat. We are a sponsor, HPNA, AHPM are sponsors, ACS are sponsors, but it's through the National Palliative Care Research Cooperative Group. So we send and support scholars who submit applications. Those applications are then reviewed. Obviously, there is a cost associated with that. So there's a particular number of persons that we send each year. And this year it'll be in La Jolla, California. The dates are there. And most importantly, applications are due on the 30th of this year, April 30th, 2022. And we'll be doing the reviews for those in May. This is the most exciting slide, I think. So take note of the website addresses that are on both of these places. And this is what, oh, why is it doing that? This is what Ginger was talking about when she put in the chat earlier. This is a new, it's not new, but I know some of the members have not heard about it, membership community portal. And in that community portal is a way to try to connect. It's go to the HPNA community advancingexpertcare.org. Why it wasn't doing this earlier? I apologize, everyone. I practiced this and it wasn't doing the flip. The other thing is with the community is that's where you can fill out your own profile, put your type of information that you want in your profile, so then you can be mentored match. And that's the other piece that's in there. And across the top is different things. And if we have time, I have the website pulled up. I'll share screen and kind of show you what that looks like. Clearly the slides want me to move forward. The other thing is the HPNA Podcast Corner. There are some podcasts that are related to research. We did have NINR do a podcast for us back in November 2020. So that's there. Scroll up and down the multiple podcasts. In addition to some of our emerging SIG and research committee members did a podcast to talk about what's it mean to be a nursing researcher. Next, the other thing is nursing resource guides. There's a slew on multitude of topics that are out there, but we did, the research committee in 2020, create some nursing resource guides on how to do an abstract, how to do a poster, how to do a scholarly presentation. So there are 5 research-oriented nursing resource guides that are out there that you can access and use. Finally, just knowing that the word Polaris is kind of that educational space. So it's where our e-learning modules are and a lot of different topics that are out there. It did not do this earlier. I don't know, Brittany, what happened with the innovation, but I practiced it, didn't do this. So finally, we'll get off the slide deck. I just want to say to all of my research committee members, my emerging SIG, again, chairs and my research SIG chairs, thank you for all of your time and effort, and for all of us who are out there in the world within this space of the years we've all just had over the last while, and the grief that we've all experienced. And grief comes in a lot of ways. There's a free resource out there in case you haven't seen it. The videos are pretty brief. They represent a broad range of different things for us, right? To think about grief and to deal with grief, not just for us, for our colleagues, and most especially for our patients and families. I've watched them many, many, many times. You can watch them more than once. And so I just encourage you to take some time out of your busy days and take a moment to watch these. Some great resources. And they were sponsored, as you can see here, by HPNF, which is the foundation arm, of course, HPNA, APC, ONS, and SWIPN. And the link to get to some of those YouTubes, or you can find them through the website. And now we'll take questions. And I'm going to stop sharing, because if there are questions that people want me to drive around the website, we can do that, or put additional questions in the chat and I'm happy to answer them, or feel free to unmute. That is all our dedicated content for today. Now I can see everybody's faces. Ginger, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to unmute and add.
No, great job, Heather. I just wanted to put my thanks out to the committee and to the SIG. Appreciate all the hard work that everyone is doing. I will tell you that probably about 6 months ago, I signed up as a mentor on the Mentor Match program for HPNA. I have two wonderful mentees, both early practice APRNs. And I may be getting more out of it than they are, because the enthusiasm and energy that they're bringing is to these conversations are taking me back to when I first started as an advanced practice nurse. It took me about 15 minutes to sign up. It has been a wonderful process. The things we're discussing is one of the advanced practice nurses wanted to apply for a state panel discussing palliative care. So that led to us talking about how to update her resume, how to gear it towards that application. Also talked about points on discussion points and interview questions she should be anticipating. Another one is a brand spanking new advanced practice nurse who's been an advanced practice nurse for about 3 months and has been practicing as a hospice and palliative registered nurse for the past 25 years. So really, the first thing we talked about is the importance of her understanding her power in the workforce shortage right now in advanced practice nurses and palliative care, and that she should be interviewing the people who are interviewing her. And just really, it's been interesting to see her confidence grows as our calls continue. Thanks for the opportunity, Heather.
Thanks. I see a hand raised by, I hope I say it correctly, Olga.
Yes, thank you. That is correct. Thank you so much for this opportunity to learn more about the Research SIG today. And I wanted to ask for some help. So I've been interested in a couple of volunteer opportunities, but in the last few weeks, when I have then gone into, the HPNA member portal to the volunteer, I always get directed to that these are open opportunities, but that I should email a person. And didn't there used to just be like an online application process? Because I know several years ago, I applied for several different things. So I'd like some guidance, please, in terms of how to, am I just
Functionality.
Yeah, am I going to the wrong place, or I'm not sure what's happening there.
I don't claim to be the technological brain behind all of this, but I do know probably the person that you would email is, and correct me, Ginger or Brittany, if you're still on, Lauren Warwick, W-O-R-E-K. That's probably the name that's popping up when you sign in, and she is a mastermind behind kind of this portal processing, and she's the one that I go to when I'm having, any technical difficulties. So it should be, I'm pretty sure it's probably Lauren, L-A-U-R-E-N, Warwick, W-O-R-E-K.
I'll put her email address in the chat.
And again, we've had this now for about a year, I think, Ginger. And so we want to have feedback of functionality issues, right? We're researchers. So are we beta testing, a new platform, and are there kinks and bugs and different things that may be happening in the platform that we want to hear about so we can make it an improved process for everyone?
Yeah, and one of the biggest roadblocks that most people hit is they try to access it without logging into the HPNA website. So you actually have to log in as a member. And then sometimes people maybe have not logged in a little bit of a time, so their passwords needs to be reset. But I put Lauren's email address. She would be more than happy to help you with that. We are also working on instructional Loom videos, which people will be able to click on, and it'll take you through piece by piece on how to get to SIGs, how to get to the community, and how to get to the mentoring match program.
And I believe, Chris, did you post, so if you log into the community portal, you go to the Research SIG space. You posted back in February a link that does have a brief video. It's very brief, I think 5 minutes, that our one of our administrative persons taped to kind of show how do we connect to this community portal. So again, go into the community portal, go into the Research SIG, and if you scroll back to around February, Chris, if my brain
Yes.
remembering, it's on that discussion from February that kind of just shows the functionality of what is this portal, community portal, I think. I'm happy to share my screen. I thought people might have questions about this, so I'm kind of logged in as myself. So this is, you know, what we're all used to seeing here. Can everyone see that? So this is my screen within HPNA, but I'm going to stop share. What we're talking about for the portal is, give me 1 minute for it to update and share. I can drive. This is what we're talking about, that community page. So again, just like Ginger was saying, sometimes you think you're logged in, but if you don't have your image of whatever that image is showing up, you may or may not be logged in. And so therefore the functionality of that won't work. But then once you're in here, so you can say, here's communities. So you can go my communities. Here's the mentoring that Ginger was mentioning to fill out. Here is the volunteer that Olga was just speaking about. And of course, directory. And we are trying to use it as a way to put requests for volunteers out there. So this is what we're talking about when we say community, the HPNA community. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. So I can go back to the chat. Is there a direct link from the HPNA site to the portal? I don't believe there is. Is there?
So is it to the research portal? Is that the question?
It just says from the HPNA site, so that first shared screen. If you're on the website.
Heather, would you like me to share my screen?
Sure.
Okay.
Are you host? Let's see if you're host.
You can make me a co-host.
Yeah. Participants. Find you in my list.
And if not, I can actually talk you through it, Heather.
I got it right here.
Okay.
Make co-host. Make co-host. Okay.
So I am just going to minimize this a little bit, share screen. Okay, so I still have this, it automatically recommends because I go into the website about 4 times a day. So you can either do www.hpna.org or you can do www.advancingexpertcare.org. And this takes you to the website. So if you were to go to membership and communities here and down here, HPNA communities, this will take you here, but Heather's absolutely right. You're only going to be able to get so far here as far as volunteering or engaging in mentoring, because it's really going to want you to log in. So my recommendation is every time you visit the website, go ahead and sign in. And as you sign in here, and in your, trying to remember one of the numerous passwords I forget every day. So now this takes you, and it takes a while, it takes you directly into the page that Heather had showed you before on her profile. So this shows my name here, and you're able to access directly into journals here, the Journal of Hospice and Palliative Nursing, and get into archives and do searches. But from this site right here, you're also able to go directly into membership, communities, HPNA communities.
And if you do that innovation, then you can notice that Ginger's face is sitting up there at top. So she's logged in, which means you should be able to process through any of the volunteer forms, look at the discussion board for whatever special interest groups you're part of, post on the discussion boards, et cetera, et cetera.